So there's still a lot of questions about what the future holds for BioWare, even with the launch of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. While the game did launch to generally favorable review scores, there are still some mixed reception surrounding just the general direction of the game and whether it feels like the Dragon Age we knew, especially, those who fell in love with Dragon Age Origin. And a lot of people are still kind of apprehensive about sort of the writing of these games, where it just doesn't feel as refined as it did back when BioWare was at its peak, when they had some of those renowned veterans who have since left and kind of began to pursue their own ventures. And so we'll see what happens with Mass Effect 5. Dragon Age: The Veilguard did do decent numbers. If you look at Steam charts, the all-time peak suggests that it did sell a couple million copies, and the user score on Steam is mostly positive at 71%, but ultimately it doesn't have that universal acclaim that BioWare once upon a time used to receive. And so there are people who are looking towards some of those projects that BioWare veterans have been pursuing outside of BioWare. A lot of BioWare veterans have started their own studio, such as none other than Casey Hudson, who you may recall left back in December of 2020, departed BioWare alongside Mark Dara. Right here we have Casey Hudson's statement from December of 2020. And since then, he has started a brand new studio known as Humanoid Studios. This right here is the announcement from June 29th, 2021 that reads, "I've been working with some colleagues on something awesome, and I wish I could tell you all about it. For now, though, I can only say this. Today, we're announcing a new independent video game company built to unleash the creative freedom of developers, bringing innovation and artistry to players through an all-new IP. We are Humanoid Studios. This is the first tiny step in our journey, and we hope you'll come along with us on the adventure." So that was a really cool prospect to get to see, those BioWare veterans who made BioWare what it is, kind of branch out of the more corporately controlled sort of EA umbrella and expand their wings in a creative environment where they could kind of shape their own fate and do what they wanted. And so a lot of people were excited about the prospect of seeing Casey Hudson kind of just be more independent and have more creative freedom and see what that could unleash. If you go to Human Origin's website right now, you can see that they're emphasizing how they're hard at work on their first project, which is a multi-platform AAA title focused on character-driven narrative in an all-new science fiction universe. It feels like almost like a spiritual successor to Mass Effect is kind of the vibe that this was given off in terms of what Casey Hudson was working on. And you can see from some of the concept art shown on the website just the general vibe of what they were going for with this brand new IP. There's definitely something cool here, but it's all very conceptual, and we don't know for sure how much of this would actually make it into the final game. But, there's already kind of this really interesting vision for the sci-fi world that makes this a compelling proposition. Speaking of compelling propositions, that brings us to the sponsor of today's video, SIHOO, makers of ergonomic chairs that are fantastic for chilling, working, and gaming. As someone whose recreational and professional activities involve spending many hours sitting down, finding the perfect chair is paramount, both for day-to-day comfort and for long-term physical health. And I gotta say, based on my time with the SIHOO Doro C300 chair, they're onto something here. It's got really comfortable and dynamic lumbar support that's been great for alleviating back pain during prolonged sessions, a flexible seat back that allows you to relax your back, an adjustable headrest that will suit every body type, arm support that can be easily adjusted across 4 directions, a weight-sensing chassis that makes seat reclining feel smooth, effortless, and balanced throughout all 3 reclining angles, 92, 100, and 112 degrees, a waterfall-shaped seat that offers a weightless floating-like feel, and the list just goes on and on. An R&D team of over 100 professionals worked on this chair, and it definitely shows in the attention to detail that went into its craftsmanship. It's been a genuinely great addition to making my day-to-day seated activities more pleasant and less prone to pain and discomfort. They also made sure you'll feel safe in your purchase by offering a 30-day money-back guaranteed and a 3-year warranty. If you're still on your quest of finding the perfect recreational, gaming, and work chair, the SIHOO Doro C300 might be up your alley, and you can get yours by using my link in the description and comment section below. But yeah, as I was saying, Casey Hudson had this brand new studio with a brand new ambitious AAA project in the works. We soon started to see a lot of major outlets start to report on this with kind of excited, bated breath. And so the hope was that this would mark a new era where we would see kind of Bioware go back to the good old golden days in the form of what essentially could be classified as like a Bioware spiritual successor that is carried on through the Bioware veterans who made Bioware what it is, but are now kind of branching off and doing their own thing under a new banner without the kind of corporate overlording that EA might do, or kind of the direction that Bioware has gone in, where a lot of people feel like it's still just not quite what it once used to be. Things seem to be going well for a while. In July of 2022, Casey Hudson tweeted that they wrapped a major milestone this week at Humanoid Studios. The team finished strong with an incredibly playable prototype, and now we're off for our studio-wide summer break. And so it seemed like this was all just going very smoothly, and that we'd hear about this game soon, that we'd see this game sometime soon, and it'd be something worth getting excited about. Then on October of 2023, Casey Hudson seemed even more excited about the future prospects, saying it's so hard to be working on exciting stuff that we're not able to talk about and share it with you. So we put a few new concepts and other teasery bits in the Humanoid Origin website, which is the stuff that I showed you guys earlier in the video. The website didn't look like that before October of 2023. Those concept arts seemingly were not there. But yeah, there was like optimism surrounding the change of name from Humanoid Studios to Humanoid Origin. You might also notice a subtle update to our company name, reflecting the idea that in a world of AI-generated content, the creativity of our games originates with the talented humans on our team, which was just a great stand to make of like, we're not going to utilize generative AI to make our games. Like, we ultimately want to focus on human talent and their creativity. So I don't know, the stars just seemed to be aligning. It felt like there was something special cooking here, and then out of the blue, it all just fell apart. We learned on November 25th, 2024, just a couple of days ago, that this new game that Casey Hudson was working on is being canceled because the studio, Humanoid Origin, has shut down. This was announced via LinkedIn, and as you'll see in a second in the official statement from Humanoid Origin, it all just came down to not having the financial support to be able to sustain this ambitious endeavor. Here we have Humanoid Origin's official statement posted and published on LinkedIn. It reads right here, "Earlier today, we informed our staff that Humanoid Origin will be shutting down. Despite efforts to shield the studio from broader challenges in the industry, an unexpected shortfall of funding led us unable to sustain operations. We are heartbroken that we will not be able to bring our new science fiction universe to completion. Our main concern at this time, however, is for our team, and we're committed to supporting them in their transition to new employment. In our time together, the team achieved incredible progress and demonstrated that it's possible to do amazing work while fostering a culture of fun and creativity. We thank them for their talent, courage, and friendship. Thank you, everyone who supported us throughout our journey." And that's it. That's the end of that. You know, they got to show some cool concept art, hint at prototype, a playable prototype that they were very excited about. Everything seemed to be going great, and then everything just kind of crashed and burned, and none of this is happening anymore. We won't see the fruition of what looked to be a very cool kind of sci-fi universe. And this is just reflective of an industry where going AAA, especially as an indie developer, is extremely difficult. I have to wonder whether it was a smart idea to go so bold and ambitious from the outset instead of starting with a smaller project that was within the scope of what the studio could accomplish during a time when going AAA and just the level of competition and how, you know, budgets and the complexities of making such a large-scale game have inflated. Maybe I should have just made a smaller game and then save this one, you know, in the back burner for a later day when that smaller game could help them kind of find their footing and some financial backing and the like. But yeah, it's just the end of that endeavor, which is just really sad because it was something that a lot of folks were excited about. And the crazy part is Casey Hudson is not the only one who suffered a similar fate. Back in November of 2023, it was announced that Mass Effect veteran Mac Walters would be heading up a new studio with NetEase. For those who don't know who Mac Walters is, he was writer and eventually lead writer on the Mass Effect trilogy, and he was also the creative director on Mass Effect Andromeda, which obviously doesn't have as good of a track record as the original trilogy, but his contributions to the Mass Effect universe, it's pretty substantial stuff. And he started this studio called Worlds Untold. It states right here that at Worlds Untold, we're developing AAA action-adventure games with worlds so expansive they can't be contained in a single story. By crafting worlds with diverse characters and endless possibilities, we aim to make the greatest stories you can experience anywhere. So that's quite the ambitious statement to make, but they set their goals high, especially with the backing of NetEase, which is one of the biggest gaming conglomerates, and who are able to provide that level of support, so things just kind of looked optimistic. Mac Walters had left BioWare back in January of 2023, and it felt like he himself was kind of deciding to break away from the corporate structure and umbrella of EA and wanting to pursue creative endeavors with some semblance of creative freedom. But it seemed as ultimately he placed his fate in yet another corporate umbrella, this time in the form of NetEase. And it seemed as though that didn't pan out, as shortly after Casey Hudson's announcement that his project and studio would be shutting down, Worlds Untold released out of the blue the following statement just a few days later. It reads right here, "It's hard to find the right words for this, but I wanted to share that we have made the very difficult decision to pause operations at Worlds Untold while we search for a new partner to help bring our vision to life. This was not a decision we made lightly. It's been a deeply personal journey, and we're all so proud of everything this team has built together. In the meantime, our incredible team members will be exploring new opportunities. If you're looking for passionate, talented professionals, please reach out. I'd be honored to connect with you with some of the best people I've ever worked with. This is a heartbreaking moment for everyone involved, but I'm deeply grateful for the support of our partners, friends, and family, and for the time we've had together at Worlds Untold. While we're pausing for now, this isn't goodbye. There's more to come, and we look forward to sharing the next chapter with you when the time is right. Mac." At the very least, this leaves a hopeful note of like, we're pausing right now, but we're looking for avenues to be able to continue this project, but seemingly something went wrong with NetEase, and this may have been Worlds Untold's decision. It says right here that this was not a decision we made lightly, so I'm curious as to whether there was just some kind of conflict with the publisher where they're like, you're not a right partner for us. Well, NetEase did provide a statement to Eurogamer when they reached out, and this right here is a Eurogamer article with an update that provided a quote from a NetEase spokesperson who said the following: "After careful consideration, we have made the incredibly difficult decision to discontinue financing for Worlds Untold." Some conflicting information here where Worlds Untold said we made this decision, and now NetEase is saying we made this decision. I don't know ultimately where the partnership broke down, whether it was Worlds Untold saying no, you're not our right partner, or was NetEase going, no, we don't want to continue supporting this. Either way, the statement continues, "This choice was not made lightly, as we have been consistently inspired by the team, their unwavering dedication, and the bold vision behind their project. Although current market conditions have required us to reassess and prioritize our opportunities, we're actively collaborating with the studio to explore potential next steps and provide support during this transition." This whole thing of like current market conditions, it's similar to what Casey Hudson said in this official statement from Humanoid Origin, where he talked about broader challenges in the industry, ultimately leading to this unfortunate result of having to cancel and shut everything down. But anyway, back to NetEase's statement. It concludes with, "While this chapter comes to a close, our commitment to a strong global presence remains unwavering, and we're excited about the promising projects underway at our other studios. We thank Worlds Untold for their remarkable contributions and wish them every success in the future." So we'll see how they recover from this and whether they can find their footing again and ultimately complete this project. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to see two Bioware veterans, indie studios, and their ambitious AAA projects fall apart in succession, just within a short time frame of each other. Just what the heck is going on? And it sucks to see because we want to see these creative minds pop off in an environment where they feel more creatively fulfilled, where they have just more creative freedom. This is just awful to see when an indie endeavor ultimately doesn't end up panning out, and when the harsh realities of this industry ultimately end up weighing down too much on them to the point where stuff like this happens. And that's kind of the compromise you have to make. When you go with a major AAA publisher, you have some kind of financial safety net, though there's also the possibility that they'll screw you over in some way, where they'll look at what you're doing and say, this doesn't align with our vision, or we don't think it's going to make money for us, or we're going to shut you down. On the other hand, you can go full indie without the backing of a major AAA publisher and have that freedom, but ultimately that could lead you to having situations where operations just aren't able to be funded by the circumstances in which you're trying to support your ambitions without the financial backing of a major corporation. So, there are risks on both sides. And in the case of these two, the risks associated with being an indie developer with major AAA ambitions, all of that ultimately ended up catching up to them. Now, there is hope, though, because there are other Bioware veterans who also went off and started their own studios and are pursuing their own game development endeavors, who are currently in a much better place. Another Bioware veteran who left years back is none other than Mike Laidlaw, who departed Bioware back in October of 2017. For those who don't know, Mike Laidlaw is writer, designer, and creative director known for his work on Mass Effect and Dragon Age, definitely a major contributor to BioWare's legacy, and he founded a new studio in November of 2020 alongside veterans from companies like EA and Ubisoft. That studio would come to be known as Yellow Brick Games, which aimed to go back to basics when it comes to approach to game development, and we're focusing on centering on the pleasure of crafting new game experiences in a flexible and more personal environment that an independent studio can provide. There was emphasis on how this is a perfect time for these veterans who've worked on these major projects to get back to small, agile, and highly motivated group. So for them, it's not about going full AAA from the outset, but rather kind of going a little smaller scale and just focusing on creativity and doing something that is within reason for a studio, for an independent studio that's just getting off the ground. So they're working on a game called Eternal Strands, a new fantasy action adventure title. This game is aiming to release sometime in 2025. And it's got some interesting ideas going for it, with the key element of this title being that this is meant to be a physics playground with a revolutionary new system for gameplay interactions such as heat spreads, cold chills, and real-time destruction that allow for unprecedented reactivity in combat. There's actually some gameplay here worth checking out. This right here is the trailer, and it definitely looks cool. It's got vibes akin to Immortal Phoenix Rising, but the emphasis here is definitely like the creativity of how various systems interact. And it seems as though it encourages player creativity in using all these magical elements to be able to creatively tackle combat. And so I like the idea behind this. And I wish him the best on this endeavor. This is definitely looking... Ooh, it's got some like Shadow of Colossus elements in there as well, with like climbing big monsters and creatures and automatons and the like. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty interesting. But we have yet to see whether this game plays and is as fun as its ideas make it out to be. But yeah, this is what Mike Laidlaw has been working on in his brand new studio. And so that's at least something that's progressed far enough where we're definitely going to see that game come out. So this is a Bioware veteran whose indie endeavors have been going well and smoothly so far. Now it's about execution at launch and ensuring that they sell enough copies that they can sustain this indie studio for the long term. And then another individual who's still working on his project, a former Bioware veteran, is James Olin, who announced his retirement from Bioware on July of 2018 with the following statement on Twitter: "After 22 years, I've retired from Bioware. I've loved my time with Anthem, Star Wars, Dragon Age, and Dungeons & Dragons, but I need to take a break from the industry and work on something a little smaller and more personal. and that he did before returning to game development on January of 2020 in the form of Archetype Entertainment, the studio currently working on Exodus, which is this epic-looking sci-fi game that has Matthew McConaughey involved. This was announced at last year's Game Awards, I believe. It reads right here, "We're thrilled to finally announce our new studio, Archetype Entertainment, led by James Olin and Chad Robertson. We are developing a multi-platform role-playing game set in an all-new science fiction universe. Check out the website in our bio for job opportunities." James Olin is a hugely influential Bioware veteran who was a creative director and lead designer for games such as Star Wars: The Old Republic, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, Neverwinter Nights, Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, and Dragon Age. So he's a pretty big deal, and him spearheading a studio like this and working on a project of this level of ambition is something that a lot of people are hoping pans out. Especially given that another Bioware veteran who is involved with this studio is Drew Karpyshyn, who announced in his blog that he's the lead writer for Archetype Entertainment, founded by James Olin. It's worth noting that Archetype Entertainment was created by none other than Wizards of the Coast, the company behind D&D and Magic the Gathering and whatnot. I guess in that sense, this is less of an indie studio because it is a studio that was created by a major conglomerate like Wizards of the Coast, but seeing it spearheaded by Bioware veterans like James Olin and Chad Robertson, and having Drew Karpyshyn be the lead writer, Drew being a major player when it comes to the writing of the likes of Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect, like that is all a pretty huge deal. And now we're learning that Matthew McConaughey is involved. He took the stage to announce this game and to promote it and to talk about his excitement for his involvement with this game. Right here we have the website for Archetype Entertainment that advertises Exodus: Become the Traveler, and down here it talks about the studio with it being founded in 2019, with it featuring industry veterans from Bioware, 343, EA, Naughty Dog, and other AAA studios, backed by Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. And the game itself has its own website right here where you will find a lot of information. They're like doing lore dumps and teases of what this world has to offer. And I've got to say, it's really interesting stuff. And it's garnered a lot of attention, which is a great sign. Right here we have the trailer, the cinematic trailer that they showed at the Game Awards. And you can see it's garnered 1.9 million views as of the recording of this video. 11 months this trailer has been out.
Frontier world. We were barely
and you can see that it's a really interesting universe already based on what the cinematic trailer shows, and now it's a matter of like the gameplay and what this role-playing experience is meant to achieve and its ambitions. It's about executing on that and making this just like a good-ass game that harkens back to the good old days of when Bioware was at the forefront of these kinds of expansive RPG experiences, where the writing felt on point, where player decisions felt like they had consequence, so on and so forth. But I mean, the aesthetic of all this is just so cool.
Us on the path to Simon again.
Very unique art style.
He was too hot and hotter.
So yeah, as I skip around the cinematic trailer, it's just aesthetically really, really dope. Oh, look at this. And I'm really hoping that this isn't some project that gets canceled out of the blue. It doesn't look like it will be. I feel like it's far along enough where this feels like something Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast will see all the way through, especially with now Matthew McConaughey involved, especially with the traction that this trailer has gotten. And we've got a bunch of videos here that further kind of delve into the world and the universe that Exodus is trying to establish here. We've got videos like Matthew McConaughey narrating stuff about this, I don't know, this otherworldly creature, entity, species, whatever you want to call it.
Memories, emotions.
Like the setup's already really, really fascinating.
And tortured, the better.
And the atmosphere and the vibe that this all gives off.
Torment before being neurologically drained.
Like, look at this. This already looks so dope.
Mariama allowed to survive and escape.
So seeing this project come so far has me optimistic that one of these Bioware veterans will be able to show us what a Bioware veteran can do when their creativity is let loose. Well, it's a shame about Casey Hudson's endeavors falling apart and Mark Walters struggling. At least we got Mike Laidlaw and James Olin and Drew Karpashian still cooking on stuff that's looking pretty interesting and pretty creative, and stuff that seems to be well into the development cycle. So it's not all doom and gloom. There are a number of endeavors that are succeeding. Now, it is worth highlighting, however, that one Bioware veteran did launch his game and started his own indie studio. So this right here is Aaron Flynn, who left Bioware back in July of 2017, after which he would lead the studio known as Inflection Games. Initially, back in 2019, the studio was known as Improbable Edmonton. So Improbable is this company that kickstarted two studios, one of them being the Improbable Edmonton studio. And this was a studio that they contracted Aaron Flynn to spearhead, former Bioware general manager. This would eventually become Inflection Games, and they would ship this game called Nightingale, which is this like Victorian survival game experience that had a lot going for it and had some interesting elements to it. It definitely caught a lot of attention. Initially, Nightingale was supposed to be a game that utilized Improbable's cloud-powered spatial OS tech, but then eventually Inflection Games became a part of Tencent, and they were freed from those obligations so they could just make a survival experience that they wanted to make without having to rely on cloud tech. Eventually, the game launched in early access form on February 20th, 2024, but unfortunately, it launched with enough issues where reception wasn't great. The overall score on Steam right now is 66%, and while it had a decent enough start as far as player numbers are concerned, you can see that that has since dipped significantly from an all-time peak concurrent player number of 47,569 players to now, quadruple to mid-triple digits. They were hoping that early access sales of the game would be enough to fund the studio where layoffs wouldn't be required, but ultimately the game did underperform in its early access stage. And so while they're working on a lot of the issues and aiming to make significant changes to the game to address the issues that people have brought up, unfortunately, Inflection Games is just kind of barely getting by, and they've unfortunately had to lay off a bunch of folks from the studio. So this is an example of a Bioware veteran who has launched a game, but that endeavor hasn't been successful enough. There are some turbulent waters here and there, and the hope is that over the long term, they'll be able to kind of turn things around. But currently, Inflection Games is struggling with Nightingale. And so this is kind of the landscape of Bioware veterans who have retired from Bioware, have decided to either start their own indie studio or were kind of made to lead studios that other companies have decided to create from scratch. Some have completely shut down. Some are in troubled waters. Some are still in development, and some have had launches like a Nightingale. But Nightingale in particular, the launch of that game has proven to be troubled enough that there has been some consequences in terms of layoffs, and there being some concerns about whether this is a game that can withstand the test of time. So yeah, for those who maybe aren't satisfied with the current state of Bioware and their recent slate of game outputs and are looking to keep an eye out on projects that might harken to the good old days of Bioware with veterans involved who made a significant impact on Bioware and their best games, these are the studio's projects, endeavors to keep an eye out for, and I really wish them the best. In the meantime, though, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on all of these studios and projects led by former Bioware veterans, which ones you're excited about, and for the ones that are struggling or have, completely shut down, what you think ultimately happened there, and what your hopes and prospects are for these Bioware veteran studios and projects. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.